You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
If you enjoy this podcast, it would mean so much to us if you'd be willing to take 30 seconds to do these tiny things.
First, can you please follow or subscribe to Self Care Club?
Following the pod helps you because you'll never miss an episode, and it helps us because you'll never miss an episode.
So to do this, just go to the Self Care Club show page on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and then just tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner or click on follow.
This is the most important thing for the pod. And while you're there, if you'd be willing to give us a 5-star review, we would be so grateful.
Hello everybody, I'm Nicole Goodman.
And I'm Laura Mishkon, and welcome to Self Care Club. Every week here we try and reflect on what's going on in our own lives. And since Nicole's just had a back operation and I've just had a holiday,
Which was the worst timing in the whole world.
sorry. The main
Not sorry, sorry, not sorry.
not sorry, a bit sorry.
Yeah.
The main focus of both of our weeks has been rest.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Different types of rest, why it's so important, why we should do more of it, and why so many of us struggle to do it.
We have done an episode on rest before, many moons ago. It's funny that we can say that now about our show.
Yeah.
But it was us trialing out rest. I just feel like the conversation is going to be very different.
Yeah.
And also, it's a very big topic. And it's one that everyone has a completely unique relationship with.
for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone's busy. Everyone feels like they haven't got time. Everyone's got tasks. There's always something. There's always someone that needs our attention, especially if you're a mother, endless. And we feel like there is no time for rest. But it's very, very, very important to rest, not just for our physical health, but also for our mental health and our general well-being. It's kind of part of self-care, but it's a part that people forget about, I think, a lot.
I think it's a part that people feel guilty about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, I was going to say, like when you were just saying that about how we don't have enough time and everyone's time deficient and time poor and running around and caring for this one and doing this and doing that. Do you think that's a city thing? Do you think that's like a living in London thing? Or do you think that's a universal thing?
I think it's both, but I think it's worse when you are living in a busy city.
Yeah.
For sure. So my friend who emigrated to Australia, life slowed down, and she always says now when she comes back, it's been 10 years, and when she comes back she's like, and she was born and bred in London, she said, I just find London so hectic now, just the pace and the rushing. And she said even like she was queuing in John Lewis for something, and she was like, even everyone's so aggressive and so it feels like the pace is so fast all the time, and I think that doesn't help.
I would agree with all of that, but also like the weather and everyone's just a bit stroppy, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah, but resting, it is very important because it does things for your body and for your health, like reducing your stress and anxiety, improving your mood, and decreasing your blood pressure, and improving your immunity.
Decrease your blood pressure?
Yes,
Rest. Of course it does. Yeah,
and improves your critical thinking, which is obvious when you think about it. It improves your empathy. It improves your problem solving skills. It makes you more creative, don't you find, when you have the final downtime to rest, ideas pop into your head, or you're able to solve problems or remember things you couldn't remember before?
I think what happens is that if you don't take the rest, you burn out.
Yes.
So therefore you can't be creative or you can't problem solve because you're too depleted and exhausted and there's nothing left. You're empty.
Yeah.
But when you've taken, like, because I find that I get a lot of my best ideas when I'm moving.
Yeah.
So when I'm in the gym or I'm walking the dog and things like that. But that probably only comes after I've rested. I don't think I would be creative if I hadn't have had a good night's sleep, for example. That kind of thing. I think it plays into it, but I don't think I have those creative ideas whilst I'm resting.
I think I do. But it's very interesting because everybody knows it's good for them. Everybody. No one has this idea of like, oh, rest is really bad, I shouldn't do it. Everyone knows, but everyone's reluctant. And why is that? And I think it's to do with like you said, guilt, and also like a bit of shame, or we feel like we're not deserving of having time out?
I think there's a real status in being busy.
Oh, yes.
So like, who's the busiest person in the room? Oh, well, that's me. I'm going to win that title. I am the busiest, therefore I am the most important, or my needs matter the most because I've got the least time. I don't know what it is. I think there's a lot of complexity in that, but being busy has become a bit of a status symbol.
Definitely. And also, what does it say about you to other people if you say, I'm actually not that busy. I'm actually just taking some time to rest next week. Oh. And you don't have an excuse. Like, you have a genuine excuse. You have to rest. You are being forced to rest. But if I just said to whoever next week, I'm not, Nicole and I are actually doing any work. I'm just taking some time to rest. What does that say about me? It's like, it's a bit selfish. It's a bit lazy.
It's lazy.
Yeah.
And
it's irresponsible. It's excessive. It's unnecessary.
All of the things. So it's like when someone says, oh, should we get an arrangement in?
Yeah.
And no one ever says, sure, I'm free whenever you like.
I'm always free.
I'm always free.
Yeah.
Because people aren't. People always have a very busy schedule because people pride themselves on being busy. But then how annoying is it when you have a friend who's always busy and they've never got time to phone you, or they've never got time to see you, or it becomes quite an irritating thing. Like, I also don't have the patience for that either. It's like, well, why are you so busy?
Yeah. What are you doing that makes you so busy all the time?
Yeah. Even though I'm probably one of those people. But I don't know. It's like, well, it's making time for things, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like when people say, oh, I don't have time to exercise. It's, no, you do have time. You don't make time.
I think most people have time to do the things that they genuinely want to do because they would prioritise those things, right?
Well, they don't. It's not important to them. But to say I don't have time, it's not that you don't have time. It's you don't make the time. You don't allow for the time. Like, I don't have time to rest. Adam often comes home and says, I haven't eaten all day. I haven't had time. And I cannot tell you how much that grates on me because, well, you do have time. You don't make time. You're not a child. You're a fully grown adult who needs to eat in order to be productive and work well and have your wits about you and make good decisions. And if you're doing that from a place of hunger and starvation, that's just ridiculous. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So there is never, ever, ever a point in your day, doesn't matter what you are doing. I mean, he's not in an ER, right?
No.
Where you can't eat a banana.
No.
And just give yourself some sustenance.
Even the Prime Minister, obviously we know not from Sunday night to Tuesday morning, but on the other days of the week, he manages to eat.
Everyone should find time to eat and sleep and rest.
I agree. Anna Martha, who has been on this show a couple of times, she's a psychologist. She wrote this week on her Instagram page. I wanted to read it to you.
She was on holiday, wasn't she?
Yeah. She said, if you find it hard to sit, to slow, to lean, to be, to wander and walk and wait, then it might be that you've become accustomed to chaos, that your body feels somehow at a loss when the adrenaline sleeps away as you're now more used to it fizzing through your veins than not. I used to think that if I forced myself to slow down, it would become easier to be more than to do. I wanted to be more present. It's a deep value of mine, but slowness and space seems to create a vacuum for thoughts and anxieties to rush into.
Yeah.
But in truth, the only thing that helps when we're living like we're being chased is to find ways to feel safer. It isn't to chastise ourselves into slowness, but to nurture a sense of identity that isn't entangled in output.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's not to force our brain to think less, but just to slowly meet and befriend ourselves without judgment in solitude. Are you relating to that?
Hard relate. Hard relate. Are you relating to that?
No. I don't relate to that. I'll tell you why.
No.
I'll tell you why. There is that bit about being easier to be more than to do. So when I was training to be a doula a very long time ago, the woman who trained us used to say, and it was like a real doula thing, a doula is a way of being, not doing.
Right.
And I always thought, what a crock of shit. And I would take a massive bag with me with every tool and trick and thing. And I was always busy during the birth, always doing something, a flannel, a honey, a this, a back rub or something. I was always doing. And, you know, these births could be very long. And then one day, it was like just after I had Josh, he was like 14 weeks old. And I went to a birth and I just sat by the edge of the birthing pool. I did nothing.
Well, you held space.
But there was a part of me thinking, I am being paid to sit here and do nothing. And there was another part of me that thought, no, I'm being here. I'm completely present. My thoughts and everything, my focus is only on her, and I don't need to do. And it was like something clicked in my brain, and my bag got smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually all I went with was like my keys, a spare pair of knickers, my phone and a flannel. And just, there was something about it that felt very, very right. Like, I'm just being.
I'm laughing because the spare pair of knickers. Okay.
Always. You could be there a really long time.
Yeah. But did that show up in your real life after that?
Yeah, because I think I have a pretty healthy relationship with rest. I'm pretty good at it. But that's because, as I always tell you, and you always disagree with me, I feel like intrinsically I am quite lazy, so I don't have a problem with it. And you always say, you're not lazy, but I am. So
you're not lazy. You are not a lazy person.
I find rest
But it's
easy.
interesting that because you've said in the same sentence, I'm really good with rest because I'm intrinsically lazy.
Yeah.
But the two aren't the same. Resting doesn't equal laziness.
It doesn't.
By the way, for me to say that, I don't run by that in my life, but I know logically that it doesn't. By the way.
It doesn't. But I mean, it comes easy to me.
Resting.
Yeah. I'm really into it.
Resting does not come easy to me.
I know. You fucking hate it.
I fucking hate it. I find it boring.
Yeah.
I find like Sundays, because now our kids are, you know, they're that much older and they don't need us as much and they're busy with their friends or they're out or whatever. We have a lot more time together over the weekends, Adam and I. And often we don't do anything. And I just find it such an edge. I find it really dull. I find it a waste of time. And I get in a really bad mood.
But you see, the fact you say we're not doing anything, why can't you just be?
Be what?
Just be.
But
you don't need to do. But just be.
Okay, so what do? But you're not just being. You're either reading a paper or you're watching TV or you're doing some gardening or you will always be doing something.
It doesn't have to be something productive.
I know. But it doesn't mean that you're just being. You're still doing.
You could literally being in the living room together and one of you reading a paper and you're having a bit of a chat and a cup of tea. Just being in the same space.
I think the problem is that Adam also doesn't rest ever. So it's not like he is available for us to sit in the living room and have a chat and just be together because he's always working. And if we've got downtime, he'll be in his office and he's, you know, I've spoken about this before. So I find that difficult. Also, it's been really interesting the last couple of weeks because I haven't put an alarm on for 2 weeks. I have now because my kids are back at school, so they had last week off. That is the first time in years I have not put an alarm on.
And are you finding you're waking at the same time anyway or not?
No, I'm waking up later. I'm waking up around 8 o'clock. One morning I woke up at 9:15.
What?
Yeah.
That is not you.
But that was like 5 days after the operation and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
So I'm waking up at 8 o'clock and then I'm not rushing.
Yeah. You can't.
Because I can't. Right. Because it's taking me a minute to get out of bed and then I'm coming down and I'm not rushing to get to the gym and to get back to work and I didn't work last week. So
when you're not in the headspace of the rushing and the doing, is that a nice feeling or not a nice feeling?
It's been what I've needed. I couldn't have rushed. I didn't have the head to rush.
But has that...
My body wouldn't allow me to rush around.
But is it a positive or a negative?
Well, put it this way. If I was rushing around still or trying to rush around, that would have been a huge negative to my physical health.
Yes.
So, yes, I would say it was a positive.
But you're saying this in a way like I'm being forced to do it, but my default is I would prefer to be doing the rushing.
It's not that I would prefer to... Because I actually hate rushing. I get really stressed with it.
Of course.
It's not that I like rushing. I don't. I like doing things. I like being busy. I like using my time effectively. And I struggle to get out of that.
Do you know why? And also my second part of that question is, what was the feeling like when they said you have to rest after this operation?
Well, I knew I was going to rest.
Yeah.
That was the main reason why I put it off for so long.
Yeah.
It wasn't the operation. It was the recovery.
So why?
I don't know if I can answer that. I have been thinking about it this weekend because I knew you'd ask me this for the show. Why? And what's in the space? Like, what is in the difficulty of being still or slower?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
I mean, I can say to you, I feel like it's a waste of time, even though I logically know it isn't.
Yeah.
But that almost feels like a bit of a cop-out because it's an avoidance technique. I am aware of it. I'm avoiding something.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm avoiding.
I feel like you seem to have a big thing about productivity.
Massive.
Like, I have to be doing because that means I'm being productive. And if I'm not being productive, I'm wasting time.
I'm wasting time.
But whose time are you wasting and what's that about?
Mine. Wasting my time.
So there's no productivity in resting.
Well, there is.
Doing nothing.
Well, there is. And interestingly, if I take this analogy back to exercise, it's in the rest and the sleep that your body develops.
You have to have rest days,
so
right?
It's called rupture and repair, right? But you have to like tear the muscle and then it has to repair itself. And it's in the repairing that is when the muscle starts to build. Right? So, and you can only repair it when you rest. So the rest is an enormous part of your exercise routine. Sleep is an enormous part of your exercise routine. If you don't sleep well, then your body won't develop or you won't get fitter, you won't get stronger. So it's a really important part of it. But it's just so fucking boring.
But do you think have you always been like this?
No, I've definitely got worse as I've gotten older. Definitely.
Okay. So it's an avoidance of something, but you don't know what it's an avoidance of.
I don't really know what I'm avoiding, or maybe I just don't want to look at what I'm avoiding. I really don't know.
It's interesting though, isn't it?
And the thing is that it comes into because my best friend is a therapist, so we talk about stuff, and and I always ask her, but okay, so it's an avoidance, let's say, because she's like, well, you need to look at what you're avoiding, but it works for me. So it's only at the point that it doesn't work for me, isn't that when I need to look at it?
Well, you can't avoid it now because you have to rest.
But I am, and I'm fine.
Right.
I'm not like massively struggling with it.
No.
I'm all right. I had a slower morning this morning. It's fine. So I don't think it's like when... I think it's exactly the same as when you stop drinking, right? Like when you did Sober October, right? You drink every day or most days, and it's not a massive problem for you. And then when you stop drinking...
any problem.
Right, but someone would say, well, you shouldn't really drink every day because it's not really good for you, right? Like I shouldn't be rushing around like a fucking lunatic every day. It's not really good for me. But I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's impacting my life. Just like the alcohol's not really impacting your life.
No.
And then when you stopped in October, it was fine.
Totally fine.
Right, so this has been totally fine.
Yeah.
So my question is, do we have to look at things always to figure out what's going on, or only when it is to our own detriment? I think that's the only point we have time when we have to look at it and figure it out. But I think that's therapy as a whole.
Listen, I'm the wrong person to have this conversation with because I'm not really into the whole digging. Because if you dig long and hard enough, you'll always find something
But I think
that
if
might
it's-
not need to be found.
Well, if it doesn't need to be found, I agree. But if it's showing up in your life as a problem, as in you're having panic attacks or you're feeling stressed all the time or you can't stop crying and you don't know why. Like if there's a problem and you need to figure out what it is, I get it. But I don't think my productivity or my lack of rest is showing up as a problem for me. I enjoy it.
You enjoy the being very productive and busy,
Yes.
and you don't enjoy the resting. I enjoy both.
So
I
right.
enjoy both. I enjoy being really busy. I really like it. I feel like stimulated and useful and productive and all that like good jazzy stuff.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy
Yeah.
that feeling.
Yeah.
But I also enjoy the feeling of like, I have no pressure on me today. I can rest. I can do what I like. I also really enjoy that. I like both.
Yeah.
But, you know, everything in
But
moderation for me.
But it's balance.
I think so. But rest is basically, it's about surrendering, isn't it? It's about surrendering the need to be productive and surrendering that like thing about, oh, I mustn't do stuff for myself because it's really selfish. And yes, and I must deal with everyone else's needs. Everyone else comes first and I mustn't rest because then, you know, what does that say about me? I can't go first.
But then I think that's a different problem. I think that's slipping into a lack of self-love, or you're in chronic people-pleasing, or you're in perfectionism, or I think there's a lot more stuff in that.
But we're also not machines. We are humans and we have physical needs and mental needs and spiritual needs, and they need to be met. And sometimes they can only be met by resting, stopping and resting
I
a
think
bit.
often they can only be met by resting.
Yeah,
Often.
yeah.
Like there have been a few jobs that I've wanted to do work-wise that I just haven't had time to do. And now that I've been lying around, not doing very much apart from watching Bridgerton, in my own time, I've been doing these jobs and I've really enjoyed them
Because it's more leisurely.
because I've got the time and the headspace to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you'd have asked me to do it 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, when we were in the midst of doing whatever we were doing,
Yeah.
I would have found it really stressful.
Yeah.
So therefore, the rest has been really helpful. Am I still trying to be productive during the rest? Yes.
Yeah, you
And
are.
are you allowed to be, or can you be productive whilst resting? Or is resting just the productivity in itself?
I think that the resting is the being, and I think within the resting, you can often find a lot of really good stuff, like a lot of creativity, or things become clearer to you, you know? These are the questions for the listeners to ask themselves in their own time. What does rest mean to you?
I think we should answer them as well.
Okay, what does rest mean to you?
We'll do the questions and then we'll go through them.
Do your moments of rest meet your needs? Could you put more boundaries around your time and become more intentional with the snippets of free time that you have within your week? And which part of you feels tired? Is it your body, your mind, your heart, or your connections?
Wow. Okay. Let's answer them.
Go on.
Let's go each one. What was the first one? What
Does rest mean to you?
You answer that first.
It means stopping. It means being. It means quiet. It means no pressure.
Okay. For me, it means recharging.
Nice.
But, well, it is nice, but also in that is a means to an end to be productive again, because it's like recharging your batteries so you're ready to go.
Yeah. Do your moments of rest meet your needs?
Very much. Do yours?
Not always. Sometimes, yes. Not always.
In what respect?
Because I would like to choose them sometimes in times when I can't, or have more of them.
But then wouldn't that not be that? Then that wouldn't be a moment of rest.
Does it meet my needs? Mostly, yes. Not always.
So last night, my husband's away.
Yeah.
I am 12 days post-op.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best of timings, but we knew he was going away. And I felt really tired last night. 8:45. I'd finished dinner. We'd cleared up. I'd had quite a busy day. And I said, right, I've got to go to bed. My back was hurting. I just needed to lie down and just watch the rest of Queen Charlotte and just be left alone. My 16-year-old wasn't feeling very well. So she had needs and I needed to see to her. She had a GCSE today. So she needed some looking after.
Yeah.
And then she sort of came in my room. She's like, can we watch an episode of Friends? She just needed her mum.
Yeah.
So that wasn't restful, but she's there and I'm not doing much. And then my 13-year-old couldn't sleep. And she also had her end of year exam starting today and she was getting very stressed. And so she didn't get to sleep till about 1:45 in the morning. And I was lying with her, I was stroking her. And so obviously that didn't meet my needs.
No.
And my needs were very important because I'm post-op. But what am I going to do? I'm a mum, right? I have to meet my kids' needs first and foremost, regardless.
Yeah.
So I think as a mum, even when you've got little children to teenagers to grown-ups, it's very hard to carve out those moments to meet your own needs. Now, I would say to answer that effectively, once I've carved out those moments, yes, it meets my needs.
Okay. But what I'm saying to you is sometimes I want that moment and I can't have it in that time because
like what happened last
exactly,
night.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So like the moment of rest isn't always at the moment that I would necessarily want it.
Nor need it.
Yeah, exactly that, right? So could you put more boundaries around your time and become more intentional with the snippets of free time within the week?
Well, yeah, I mean, we could always put more boundaries around shit, couldn't we?
Yeah. I always put a lot of pressure on myself of this task and reward thing. So like once I've done the school run, I'll come home and it's like, okay, I have to finish the laundry, fold the laundry, put it all away, do the dishwasher, get dinner on, and then I might sit down for half an hour with a cup of tea. Well, why? Like there's no police telling me I could do it the other way around. No one's telling me off. It's like an internal pressure.
I saw someone on Instagram the other day. She'd come home from holiday.
Yeah.
And she said she had loads of bags to unpack. And she'd literally just dumped all the suitcases in the hallway. And she said, I'm sitting down. There is crap everywhere. And I'm having a cup of tea now. I'm not doing exactly what you've just highlighted. Because I know that I'm going to need some energy for all of the tasks, and I'm going to be in a better mood for sitting down for 20 minutes having a cup of tea first and then getting on with it. And I thought that's so interesting because I would never default to that, but actually I think it's more helpful.
So I like to say I have a good relationship with rest, and I will take that half an hour to have the cup of tea,
but only once everything's done.
Exactly. And actually,
so how good is that a relationship with rest then?
Yeah,
you know,
I could just, but that is like that's like an internal self pressure. I don't know what that is.
I mean, Adam's really good at resting.
Yeah, so is Ollie.
And it really winds me up. I think it's because I'm so bad at it.
Well, of course. What irritates us about other people is always what we're kind of jealous of ourselves.
So because he's been sort of like looking after the household stuff a bit more since I had this op, it's been really interesting because I've watched what he does. Like he always has a rest. Once he's done like half a job, he has a rest.
Yeah, but the half a job Bob thing, it drives me mad.
It drives me mad, because of exactly what you've just said, because you can't do that.
I have to do the whole job before I will allow myself the rest.
Right, but I'm exactly the same. Yeah. But he isn't.
I do wonder if it's a male thing, because it's like, oh, I've done half the job. Oh, I'm hungry now. And then they'll have like a snack and then a sit down and then a something.
So when he was packing his suitcase to go away, I was just watching, because obviously I've got a lot more time to be around to watch him. So I was watching him. I'm not joking. He would get his stuff out of the cupboard and then he would lie down on the bed and like press play on whatever he was watching from whenever. And he'd watch like 20 minutes of TV. And I came up and I said, are you going to pack? Yeah. I'm just taking a minute. He's just taking a minute.
I'm so jealous of that.
Well, I don't even know if I'm jealous. I was so irritated by it. But what difference does it make to me?
None whatsoever.
So then he'd put like 4 items in the suitcase.
Yeah.
And then he'd sit down again.
Oh my God.
So he would basically rest in between this big task of packing. It's interesting though, isn't it?
Very.
So I would say he probably has a better relationship with rest than I do. I don't know if he does.
So when I do all the cooking, but Ollie does like 90% of the clearing up. That's kind of the deal. But he will not do the clearing up
in one go.
Or straight after the meal. There has to be a rest. Whereas I would never, if he wasn't there, I would never have a little rest before I cleaned up the dinner. ever. But he always does that. And I'm like, are you going to
But also,
clean up
you've just
yet?
sat having dinner. Isn't that the rest?
Apparently not. He sits on the kitchen sofa and he has the little rest. And then he'll potter a little bit around. And then he'll do it. But I couldn't do that.
I couldn't do that.
What's that?
So Adam always says, I will do the job. I just won't do it in your time frame.
Yes, it's true.
I'm like, well, why not?
Yeah. Why not? Because it's all about
But
me.
to me, that's not an efficient. Oh, here we go. This is what it is. It's not an efficient use of time.
I agree. Also, I can't faffing. I really struggle
You're
with
just wasting
faffing.
time because what I would like to do is get it all done and then have maximum time to sit and rest.
In one go.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, this is a hard question.
Go on.
Which part of you feels tired? Your body, your mind, your heart, or your connections? We are going to go through what that actually means.
Well, should we go through them first and then answer the question?
Okay, so let's talk about the different kinds of rest.
Okay.
Let's cut to a break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back with the different kinds of rest and what they are.
Great.
So there's 4 kinds of rest. Let's talk about the one that everyone thinks of, like the most obvious one. Physical rest, right? It's recovery, it's restoration, it's where you are.
Yeah, it's totally
right
where I
now.
am. Yeah.
So some days we're constantly on the go. Even when we're sat at the desk, we're like completely absorbed in our work. And even when we're sitting still, our bodies can still get very tired because we're not meant to sit still. We're meant to move, right?
Right.
Right, yeah. You can get like neck tension and aches and pains, but our bodies also can go into this fight or flight mode, and that is when we need to put rest in, and especially rest and digest, and it restores balance and lowers our heart rate, reduces our cortisol. So how do we do it? Obviously,
You
like
just sit down.
sleep, nap,
Yeah.
obvious, but you can also do it in a more active, conscious way. You can do a bit of moving, stretching, bit of yoga. If you've got a very stiff like body, you could have like a warm bath to relieve your aches and pains, or you could do some breathing. So that's like the most obvious one to everybody, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, how often would you say that you need physical rest?
Pretty much never.
Yeah. I would say the same, apart from the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At the moment, I need a lot of physical rest.
Of course you
Yeah.
do.
No, but it's interesting because it's not something I'm used to.
But do you ever get that thing where you've been like sat in front of the computer for too long and you feel like tired even though you haven't done a lot?
Well, you have, but I think that's mental rest.
Resting the mind.
Yeah. I think that's when you're mentally a bit burnt out.
Yeah. And also, if we put the work aside and let's say it's not about work and physical rest, resting the mind is about like resting the mental load, which is very hard to rest from.
I think that's why I like watching things like, really vacuous things like Vanderpump Rules or Real Housewives, because that rests my mind. Because I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to figure something out. I don't have to work something out. I just watch people arguing or drinking or doing something stupid, and I get lost in that.
Which is precisely the tips for resting the mind.
Is it? Is it? What,
really
Vanderpump
is.
Rules?
Vanderpump Rules is in there. And also the thing is, the more that we do and the more we get bogged down in the mental load, the more balls that you drop in your life and the more things you start to forget, and it becomes like this horrible, vicious cycle.
The bucket, it spills over because it's too full. So you do actually have to empty it.
Yeah. And I came across this thing this week that I'd never heard of before, where research has shown that when you rest your brain, just your brain, it goes into something called DMN, Default Mode Network.
Right.
And it moves away from concentrating on the outside world and it moves like inwards. And then subconsciously, you start to problem solve and you organize the information you've taken in during the day.
Wow.
Yep. So when you allow your brain to go into this DMN, you increase your memory and your empathy and your perspective on life. Apparently so.
Interesting.
And how to do it? Literally exactly what you said. Find an activity that is all consuming but not mentally strenuous. So for me, it's definitely TV or books.
So I also like to watch, I like to play Sudokus.
Yes, perfect.
I like to play Solitaire.
Yes. Wordle? Do you like a bit of Wordle?
I haven't played Wordle in ages, but I used to. Just stuff like that.
But you're into that because the other thing that is suggested is high intensity activity like going to the gym or running. So
Suggested
that-
what? For mental...
for resting the mind. Yeah.
Well, it does rest the mind. Also, what that does is it brings you into presence because it's hard. So you can only focus on that. It's mindful, basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
Anything mindful.
Yeah. You say mindful, but it's also mindless. Because you're not having to focus.
That's so interesting how it can be both.
Yeah. And I definitely zone out with TV. It is definitely my brain just switches
but isn't
off.
that then just another avoidance technique?
It can be.
I guess it's to which level you're doing it.
I think it can be, but I think also that does just switch off my mental load because all I'm doing is just being engrossed in something that is nothing, you know?
It's very interesting. And also I feel I'm much clearer on when I need a mental break than when I need a physical break.
Mm.
I just I can't think straight, or I'm just not making very good decisions, or I can't focus properly. I lose concentration, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I get it. I think for me, that's the hardest one.
And I really noticed it when we were writing the book.
Yeah, the whizzing brain.
Of when I was able to write and when I wasn't.
The whizzing brain is a hard one because the to-do list is never, ever, ever going to be finished.
Ever.
Never. Ever. What if you die and your to-do list, this is my worst thought. What if I die and my to-do list on my phone is still there?
What do you give a shit for? You're dead.
I know, but that bothers me. This episode is brought to you by Notion.
Have you ever stumbled upon a tool that feels like it's been tailor-made for you? Well, that's exactly how we feel about Notion. Simply and beautifully designed with all your notes and docs in one place and the power of AI built inside. It's where every idea, task and episode comes to life effortlessly.
Notion merges creativity with productivity seamlessly. Whether we're planning out our episode schedule, collabing on show notes or tracking guest invitations, it's perfect for those who may be becoming a little forgetful in midlife.
Hey, just the other day we used it to map out an entire season of our podcast in record time, and that's why Notion has become an indispensable part of our podcasting toolkit. It even wrote this intro for us.
Notion is more than just a workspace, it's our secret weapon for success in the digital age. Notion is a place where any team can write, plan, organise and rediscover the joy of play. It's a workspace designed not just for making progress, but getting inspired.
Notion is for everyone, CEOs, students and Lauren. If she can manage to navigate it, anyone can.
Try Notion for free when you go to notion.com/selfcareclub.
That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/selfcareclub, and start turning ideas into action. And when you use our link, you're supporting our show.
Notion.com/selfcareclub.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
I want to talk about resting the heart. This is not something that I had come across before the research for this show, but I found it very interesting. We're all connected to our phones, and when we're connected to our phones, and I came across this on holiday, and I'll tell you the story in a minute, it can trigger a lot of emotions in us during the day and the evening.
Yeah.
That is a polite way of basically me saying that social media makes us feel shit most of the time, right? And so a lot of us can feel very depleted in emotional rest. And resting your heart isn't about resting it physically. It's about addressing, and this is what you were talking about before, is it numbing out? It's about addressing the emotions that we need to process each day.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just bury that when our capacity is limited and we just need to kind of truck on. And sometimes that's really useful. But eventually, most of us have to sit down and feel the feelings that we're feeling. And during rest time, a lot of us are on our screens.
Yeah.
And that shuts down our internal dialogue.
Yes.
Totally
Yes.
shuts it down.
Yes.
But it also leads to numbing out.
Yes.
So the resting the heart is about thinking about whether you might need to process your emotions instead of ignoring them, brushing them aside, or numbing out with TV.
Now, how do you process them without a therapist? Just sit there and acknowledge, you know what, I felt really sad today when I saw that post on social media, and I wonder why I felt sad. Oh, I think it reminded me of A, B and C, and maybe that's why.
Well, the answer is it's really, really difficult. And especially the bit when you don't judge yourself, when you acknowledge what it is that you're feeling. Because you might feel something, have to acknowledge it, and feel really uncomfortable about that feeling. Like, well, I felt angry because I was jealous because I don't have that in my life. And that's not very comfortable to sit with. But then when you do acknowledge it, that's when you can make the change, right? So it's just about cleaning off the shit that life chucks at you. And you either do it externally by talking to like a professional or a person who you can trust, or you do it on your own. Or
with a friend.
If you're not me, you could journal. You can do internal or external processing. External, you do it with somebody else, with a friend or a professional. Internally, you do it yourself.
I feel like we do that for each other.
I feel like we do that for each other, yeah.
I feel like we do that every morning when we see each other before we start work.
You basically are my journal.
You came in, you had a bit of a moan about something, and I had a bit of a moan about something, and then we came to the studio.
Do you feel better now?
I always feel better after I've spoken to you.
Yeah. Well,
Hello, you're
basically,
supposed to
no,
reciprocate.
same. Basically, we are each other's journals. Okay.
Or just friends.
Yeah, but I feel like we do external processing. That's
Yeah, we
good.
do.
That's
We do.
good,
We
right?
do. I did have external processing with my sister-in-law this morning as well, over text. That was good.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
That's good.
I thought, I feel better now.
Yeah. I decided on holiday, I really don't know why, to have a look at our TikTok account, because believe me, I look at it like once every 2 months, and I looked at all the videos, and then, why did I do this? I read all the comments.
Right.
And then I thought, I'm having a really nice holiday with my son, having a really nice time, and now I feel a bit shit about myself.
Why? We don't get bad comments on TikTok. I actually don't read them.
Well, there you go. Well,
because
let me tell you, my friend, we do.
Oh.
Not horrible,
Just not very nice.
but not stuff that makes you feel good about yourself.
Right, okay.
Stuff that makes you feel a bit shit about yourself. I just
Yeah.
thought, why am I doing this to myself? No one's making me. So I stopped. Felt better after that.
Yeah, never live in the comments.
Never live in the comments.
Never live in the comments.
But also, like, this is what I was reading them. I was like, oh, I feel a bit shit. And then I thought, hang on. A, not true. B, you don't know me. C, never going to meet you in my life. D, like, why are you wasting your life writing this shit? Like, move on. Who cares?
E, why am I reading it?
Yeah, which is where I got to.
Okay.
F, go fuck yourself. So there you go.
G, deletes TikTok.
H, remind self why I never go on TikTok. And the last one is resting your connectivity. And it's not actually about your connection to your phone. It's actually about your
Connection to
connection
yourself?
to other people and yourself.
How can you rest your connection? Shouldn't you be sort of like, it should be the opposite?
Because sometimes some connections, as we all know, feel like uplifting.
Oh my God, I'm totally flashing everybody.
Oh, that's a nice bra. I've got the same one.
I know.
Going to do your top up or just flash me your bosoms for the rest of the show? Oh, done it up. Okay.
Oh, are you disappointed?
Yeah, I'm
Are
very-
you disappointed I'm not
Very, very
flashing you?
disappointed, yeah. We all have like this endless connectivity with our partners and our kids and our work colleagues. That's you. And James.
I'm more than a work colleague.
I know. And sometimes it's really like effortless and uplifting, and sometimes it's fucking exhausting.
Yeah.
I don't find you fucking exhausting, but I do find sometimes my
Do
connections.
you find James exhausting?
And sometimes you have to reflect on your own needs.
Do you not ever find me exhausting?
I find you exhausting, and if I do find you like in overproductivity mode,
Yeah.
I just tune out.
Okay.
I just tune out to it. I just ignore you for a
It's
bit.
like when you
and then
go
it goes
into
away.
it's like when you go into your anxious mode, I tune out.
Yeah, exactly. When I have a breakdown about my kitchen being painted.
Or like when we've got to do a talk at ITN, I just tune out.
You just ignore it. I
Yeah.
do the same with
Because
you.
I know you're going to get over it. And you know I'm going to get over it. But we've
Yeah.
learned, haven't we? Because
Yeah.
when we first did that
Yeah.
with each other, we
Yeah.
didn't know.
No.
And the other one would get quite stressed
like,
about
don't
it.
go into the lines then. It doesn't help.
Doesn't
Benefit
No.
anyone.
You're just going to get eaten. So
You are.
stay out of there.
You are. It's
Yeah.
so true. Just stay behind the bars. Safe. But sometimes when you feel like that, not with us, but with other people, you have to reflect on your own needs for connection with yourself and other people. And then you have to think about, and we do talk about this in the book, do your connections fill up your energy tank, or do you feel more refreshed spending time on your own or with people who don't drain the life out of you?
Yeah.
Right. And then depending on your answer to that question, you can plan time either alone, like taking yourself on a date, like we did in our show, or connect with other people who do energize you.
I think that is a good tip outside of rest anyway, to be always very conscious and aware of who is bringing energy to your life and who is taking it away. And I think that can burn you out so quickly if you're constantly around people that just deplete your energy and take.
Yes, because that's not in any way restful.
No.
And after your
or useful or helpful to anybody.
And after your interactions with them, you're going to feel like you need a rest rather than you feel like refreshed.
When I was hairdressing, it was always very clear of when clients used to leave how I used to feel after, later on in my career, of when I felt energized and when I felt tired.
Yeah.
Or when they walked into the room, into the salon, and I would suddenly feel tired.
Yeah.
And I got really attuned to it. So I used to make sure with certain clients, like I would have eaten before, I would have had a cup of coffee before, or I really try to protect my energy around it. And then eventually they didn't get an appointment. But, but I really noticed my energy levels raise and drop just from being around so many different people all the time.
But I also really like to spend some time alone. Like I'm very happy in my own company.
So am I.
I'm very comfortable in my own company. And I kind of need a bit of that every day or every evening.
My youngest really, really needs her own company. And as she's getting older, she needs it more and more. And
Important.
I don't think she gives it to herself enough. And I noticed at this half term when she had time on her own, how much better off she was for it.
But hard at that age as well, because when you're 13, you're very much involved in what everyone else is involved in.
And you've
it's
got
all
FOMO
about being in,
of course.
Yeah.
But I kept saying to her, well, look, you're so much more energized, you're in a much better mood. And because she'd had a couple of days on her own and she was just chilled and it was good for her.
So sometimes I think you have to realize, like, okay, what I actually need now for my connectivity is just to connect with myself and not actually be dealing with all you people who need things from me all the time.
Yeah. It's hard though. It's hard, especially if you're someone that wants to be there for people and wants to help and wants to just be this presence in people's lives and be that person. It's very difficult to step back from that.
Yeah. But there's a lot in that. It's like, if you're always that person, then why are you so constantly invested in everybody else? What's that? Why do you need to be needed all the time? Why aren't you just taking some time for yourself? Like, what's that about?
I mean, that's a different conversation.
It is a completely different conversation.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So the last bit is just thinking about your daily, your weekly and your annual rhythms. Are there little things you can do every day, a few times a week, or a couple of times a year when you can prioritize your rest so you've got enough energy to manage the busier times? And these are called anchor points.
Oh, nice. That's a great little thing.
I know. They should be achievable things that you look forward to, not things that put more pressure on yourself. So it shouldn't be like 3 times a year I'm going to run a half marathon.
Well, some people might look forward to that, Lauren.
No, they might, but not pressure. No, it should be pressure free.
Some people might not feel pressure to run half a marathon.
They might not. But once you understand your own individual need, whatever that is, your rest and your rhythm, then you can put your anchor point in place. And each anchor point should link with your different kind of rest. So I know that I am very burnt out at Christmas and into January because I've got Ollie's birthday, Christmas, and 2 of the 3 boys' birthdays. And I know that is like a busy, very stressful one. That I need to find an anchor point then, when I can just switch off, tune out, find time alone. That for me is a key one.
Yeah.
December.
Yeah.
When's yours?
I think it's around now, May. It has been the busiest month ever. And so I kind of did it, but not consciously. I knew that post-op and post a couple of things after the op that I was going to have some downtime. So I booked to go to Spain for a few days.
Yes.
Because I knew I would be exhausted.
Yeah.
And I did it last year and it was amazing.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like early summer. You're at the end of the school holiday. You're at the end of the school year.
Kids are tired.
There's a lot of stuff going on. There's
Yeah.
a lot of shows. The kids are exhausted.
Yeah.
There's just
The
end of
diary's
exams.
full. Yeah.
There's just so much. It's my husband's birthday. It's my daughter's birthday. A lot. It's my parents' birthdays. People needing stuff.
Yes. Or you needing to do stuff to make other people's days special.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
Father's Day. There's a lot.
Yeah. It's true. So anchor points are a good.
Anchor points are really good, and I think that we should probably look at more where we need them in the year.
In the year, and also like in the day. Like, is there a point in the day when you actually just need one? A little one, a 20-minute one? Is there one like once a month? Is it like that maybe once a month you have a massage because you just need that physical like release of tension in your body? Like, is that a good thing to do?
I love that. I think that's really special, actually, of when you look for your anchor points and create them and
Yes.
allow them and give yourself permission to have them.
Yeah. 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 So you know what? I've made a decision now doing this show that when I go home later after the school run, before I do all the tasks I know are waiting for me at home, I'm going to sit down and have a cup of tea.
Good.
I'm going to feel no guilt.
And you
or
know,
shame.
whenever I do that, and I then get up and do the dinner and the clearing up and the homework and all the things, I am so much better equipped
yeah,
to
and
handle
a
it all.
little less resentful,
because you're not tired.
a little less fractious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I'm now still recovering, I knew this morning when I had loads of energy, I made dinner then. Because I
Yeah.
knew that by the time 6 o'clock rolled around, because I haven't cooked once since, I'm too tired.
Yeah.
And I really want my kids to have a home-cooked meal. I can't bear that they've been living on takeaways. So I did that early this morning, and I'm really pleased I have.
There you go. Now you can have your rest.
Yeah.
Okay. That is our show on rest.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. Please give us some feedback on anything you would like. hello@theselfcareclub.co.uk. We will be back on Friday for our weekly wellness roundup show. We've paused the midweek meltdowns for now, haven't we?
We have.
Because we have something coming. So just bear with, because that will be on its way. There is a reason we have stopped them.
There is.
But we are not leaving you in the lurch. So if you're missing them, which we really hope you are, do not fear. Something's coming.
It's in the pipeline.
Is it what?
It's in the pipeline.
It's in the pipeline. We will be back on Friday.
See you then.
Hi everyone, I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
And we are best friends and hosts of the Declutter Hub podcast.
If you feel overwhelmed by the clutter in your home, then you need the Declutter Hub podcast in your life. Our show is the perfect combination of delving into your emotional connection to clutter and suggesting practical how-tos.
With a no-nonsense approach and a bit of fun thrown into the mix, we get to the heart of what's holding you back from having a home you're proud of and works like clockwork every day. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or search for the Declutter Hub.
Hello, it's Mr. P here.
And the other Mr. P.
And we are the hosts of Two Mr. P's in a Podcast.
The educational podcast where you don't actually learn a thing.
No, instead we explore the weird, wonderful and downright hilarious things that happen in school from people actually doing the job. We reminisce on our own time at school, funny things we experience each day. And of course, we share your hilarious stories from the chalk face. So if you work in a school or just want a nostalgic trip down memory lane, sit up straight, fingers on lips, and get ready for the lesson.